Portal mode was created on June 11th, 2020 and joined alongside wall mode to become the first modes on Google Snake. The way Portal works is that there are two apples, and when you eat one apple, you come out of the apple the way you're facing when you went through it. On June 11th, multiple runners including SpaceDoge, SaltyHydra, Ploverums, and Yarmiplay challenge each other with competing runs. SpaceDoge does 3 things: submits 5 PBs, gets a second place time, and makes it so much harder for me to put 5 runs into one window. Ploverums gets a 41 second and 47 millisecond run. SaltyHydra gets a 39 second and 51 millisecond run. And finally, Yarmiplay gets a first place run at a time of 34 seconds and 490 milliseconds. On June 12th, a new runner for the category, LilJapKid, submits a run that rivals Yarmiplay's. The time, 34 seconds and 440 milliseconds, a time only 50 milliseconds in front of Yarmi. Yarmi then decides he's going to take revenge by submitting 3 runs, all of them better than LilJapKid's time. First, a time of 33 seconds and 190 milliseconds. Second, a time of 32 seconds and 910 milliseconds. And then he finally ends the day with a best time of 31 seconds and 610 milliseconds. Then, after 5 days of inactivity in Portal, LilJapKid decides he's going to test his luck again and gets a second place time of 32 seconds and 733 milliseconds. Three days later, Yarmi beats his time of 31 seconds and 610 milliseconds by 200 milliseconds, with a time of 31 seconds and 410 milliseconds, edging even closer to a sub 30. The next day, SpaceDoge comes back to Portal 25 with a time of 32 seconds and 433 milliseconds. Getting a second place time and beating out LilJapKid, putting him to 3rd. The day after that, Yarmiplay gets even closer to sub 30 with a time of 30 seconds and 450 milliseconds. Despite the fact that players like Yarmiplay and LilJapKid had multiple runs that were sub 35, there were only 6 players with runs in the mode. In fact, if you got a sub 40 run, you'd be in the top 5. So essentially this made the bar a lot easier for people that are not grinding, because they can spend 25 minutes playing and get a top 5 run. This is in contrast to the top 3, Yarmiplay, SpaceDoge, and LilJapKid, where they have to grind a lot for a record to show how good they are. Eventually, there were enough high-level runs that made it quite a leap to get into the top 5. On the 30th, TheDeer gets a 4th place time of 36 seconds and 800 milliseconds, which pushes SaltyHydra into 5th, and Ploverums out of the top 5. A week later, Plumbirb gets a 38.9 second speedrun, just barely bumping SaltyHydra out of the top 5 and getting Plumbirb into 5th. On July 19th, Yarmiplay does the impossible and gets 2 sub-30s in a single day. The first one is a 29 second and 830 millisecond time. And the second one beats that time by 490 milliseconds with a time of 29 seconds and 340 milliseconds. After realizing their mistakes and letting Yarmiplay get a step forward, LilJapKid and SpaceDoge set out to both get sub-30s, or to beat Yarmiplay's score. On August 12th, they both get sub-30s. SpaceDoge gets a time of 29 seconds and 583 milliseconds. Meanwhile, LilJapKid has other plans. He plans to go big or go home, and he does it. He achieves a time of 29 seconds and 167 milliseconds, which beats Yarmiplay's time and puts him back into 1st. 2 days later, iamwalrus and SaltyHydra submit runs. iamwalrus gets a 5th place time of 36 seconds and 71 milliseconds, and SaltyHydra respectively gets a 4th place time of 33 seconds and 32 milliseconds. On this fateful day, Yarmiplay had gotten a score of exactly 27 seconds, almost 3 seconds ahead of his PB. This score even lives on today, where it is unbeaten. A day later, SaltyHydra achieves the second ever sub-29 and gets himself into 2nd place in front of LilJapKid with a time of 28 seconds and 800 milliseconds. 4 days later, TheDeer swoops up 5th place with a time of 34 seconds and 630 milliseconds. On the first day of November, SpaceDoge makes history by getting a sub-28, and he becomes the closest score to Yarmiplay's 27 as of date. His time, a 27 second and 317 millisecond speedrun. A month after TheDeer achieves his 34-second time, TheDeer gets a new PB of 31 seconds and 467 milliseconds, keeping him still in 5th. On this day, Doglover 2140 gets his first top 5 enter on Portal 25 with a time of 30 seconds and 915 milliseconds, beating TheDeer's time and getting him into 5th. 5 days ago, MrTMVP also gets his first top 5 enter with a time of 29 seconds and 835 milliseconds, and is also one of the 5 people with a sub-30 in this category. This run is the last top 5 run submitted to speedrun.com since editing, and I hope this category continues to have crazy time saves or for Yarmiplay's record to be beaten. So, without further ado, thanks for watching. Hey, you forgot one. Here's the run. While LilJapKid and SpaceDoge were in call together, we knew something was going to happen, and something did happen. He knew I was making the History of Portal 25 video and wanted in. On June 6th, SpaceDoge makes history by beating Yarmiplay's record by 1.5 seconds. This run, with the luck involved, was played without almost any flaws. Time, 25 seconds and 785 milliseconds. This run also bumps Yarmiplay into second, a rare sight in the 25 apple category, and SpaceDoge ends his saga in Portal 25 elegantly. The next day, MrTMVP gets 2 runs and submits himself into history. At the same time, he makes it even harder for people to get into the top 5. Although it may be harder, MrTMVP and others still think that optimization is possible and that getting a truly unbreakable time is still far away. Luck, on the other hand, is what will screw you. Despite this category's story not being over, it's the end of the video. I know you're sad to reach the end of the video, but I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, then leaving a like or subscribing would be appreciated. Without further ado, thanks for watching.